You're listening to the A Bit From Within podcast with Felicia Marty. Hello, and thank you so much for joining me today for a new episode of the A Bit From Within podcast. My name is Felicia Marty. I am a self-care specialist, and every week I've been coming here to share a little bit from within. I am getting ready to take a little bit of a break this summer and starting to feel out into possibly a new recording schedule, a little bit of space into my work, and I have to say that even just giving myself that permission has been a huge game changer. And it reminded me of a message that I did want to hop on here and share with you all this week. Now, the first thing is something that we've been talking about for a long time. It's something that I've been kind of in an endless pursuit of, and that is just space. I feel like most often the word space comes up in relationships, right? Like, I need more space from you. I'm feeling suffocated by somebody else or something, and you just need some space. You usually need space when things aren't working, or at least that's the way we kind of commonly know the word space as. But I think for many of us, space is so much more than that, and it can be something that we need even when things aren't wrong. In fact, I think it's safe to say for all of us that space is something we all need in order to let ourself kind of spread out and to take up space on our own. Some of us do this very naturally, while others of us, we need to kind of feel it out more. In fact, this is something that I have often struggled with, is this idea that I either just have to be kind of taking up the space and like the switch is on, or the issue is like black or white, or the opposite. You know, you're just completely small and you're feeling inferior, you're feeling like an imposter. And I think that the real lesson here is that there's something in between. There's a process, and that is what this space is able to give us, is the ability to move and expand and feel ourselves out and to try different things. And this space allows us to explore, right? It allows us to be curious and to play different roles and to figure out and evaluate, right? Like to even ask ourselves the question, is this more of what I wanted? And I love this. It's something that I think is so important. It's been this little light bulb moment for me this summer. This idea that like when we step out of our normal comfort zone, or when we give ourselves permission to explore a different area or to take up more space, suddenly how we actually feel about things becomes a lot more important. Don't mind the sound of the dog dramatically throwing himself down against the floor. He's preparing for a long morning nap. But I want you to think about this week. What's that little part from within you that needs more space right now, that wants to try something different? Maybe it's something in your schedule. Maybe it's a role that you've been playing. Maybe it's an expectation that other people have of you that you're just, it's not that you necessarily even hate it, or maybe you straight up do. Like maybe you're like, I literally hate this thing that I do or have to go through, or this thing that people expect of me. But maybe it's not something you have to hate. It could just be something, yeah, I wonder what life is like on the other side of that. In fact, maybe consider those things that you feel a little bit jealous of, or something else that can kind of show you a peek into this are the things that you find yourself getting really irritated by, or really resentful over. I heard Brene Brown talk about this in a TikTok video. I think it was sometime last year, but she was, I believe, and I'm sorry, I don't know the exact thing, but what I remember taking away from it was this idea that resentment is not something that is associated with anger, but it's actually associated with jealousy. Because a lot of times when you get resentful over somebody doing something, it's because deep down you're envious that they get to do that and you don't. Like, if I'm resentful that Dave doesn't help clean the kitchen, which that's a total example because he helps clean the kitchen all the time. But if I were to be jealous or resentful of that, it'd be because I'm jealous that I don't get to just go hang out after dinner, that I don't have somebody else who can do that work for me, right? In that example. So I think that's something that you can pay attention to. Notice where you start to feel that, and then be curious. And that brings us to the second point here, which is actually deciding to step into that space. Whether you are aware or unaware of what you want, what you would do with this space, the areas if you want to change in your life, whether you're aware or not, actually deciding to give yourself that or to step into it can be very intimidating. It can be very scary. It can feel like there's too much conflict in the way. You're too afraid of the fight or the pushback, or if there's resistance. And not just from the other people. I mean, that's definitely one thing. You know, what are the people closest to you going to say about you, about your ability to do it, about your right to deserve it, right? So trying to gas yourself up and kind of prepare yourself to be strong in these situations, that can be very hard. I mean, that's probably a whole another episode for a different day. But I think if I think about my own experiences in my life, and I'm not saying this will work in every situation, but just speaking from my own experience, there's been a lot more fear that I felt that I was projecting onto the situation. You know, of course, you can be terrified of that one person that's going to say, like, you shouldn't do that, or I needed this from you, or that doesn't work for me. But truly, like, is that the worst thing that could happen? Is that you say, well, I'm sorry, that doesn't work for you. And then you move on, right? I think it's a matter of getting very clear about what you are afraid of, and then knowing that you can get through it, that you can work your way through it. And, you know, there's truly something in that, even that you're going to learn so much about yourself and about the world and about probably where you're meant to end up. But the whole point of what I'm thinking is that I think sometimes we make ourselves a lot more fearful of that change than we really need to be. And maybe that's a little bit of this belief that I have that seems to be becoming more and more strong in my life, which is that the whole universe will conspire to bring you change, to bring you variety, to give you curious experiences, to help you grow. I really do believe that. I think the universe and we respond well being challenged, being in new situations, in learning environments, having opportunities thrown at us. And yeah, I mean, especially as an astrologer, I will tell you that different makeups, like different signs that make up our personality, make some of us a lot easier to navigate this. And for some of us, it's a lot harder. But in general, I truly believe that there's a way for all of us. Some people take a fast and furious path. Some people have to take a well thought through plan. That's a little bit more my speed, is I've got to make sure to think it all through. And then once I can start to move through it, you know, and either is fine. I'm not telling you to run out there and start to change things immediately. But yeah, I just want to say, like, don't be afraid to put one foot in front of the other. Don't be afraid to explore the things that you are craving. Don't be afraid to acknowledge that you are not the same person that you used to be, even last week, right? Like, sometimes that is how dramatically life changes. Now, I will say, there's probably room to explore on the other side of that. Like, when we've been in the same place for a long time, sometimes it's hard for us to even acknowledge the ways that we've changed. And sometimes you have to start there. In what ways am I different than I was a year ago? And start there. Or what ways do I want to be different by the end of the summer? And start there. You know, there's always multiple entry points. So with that, I need to leave this episode kind of shorter today. Hopefully we packed a little bit of a punch in here, but it's something that I was thinking about as I was sitting down, drinking a little bit of coffee, staring out the window this morning. And I was just getting ready to do a card drawing, and I realized, well, this is a perfect opportunity to share a bit from within and to do a card drawing. So I actually have this deck that kind of was calling out to me today. It's, and a spirit animal deck, but it's not the normal one we use, the Kim Krans. It's I actually don't even know where this deck came from. It's one that was kind of handed down to me. We're just gonna pull an animal card here and find out what it means. All right, we got the alligator. So an alligator or a crocodile, these represent ancient knowledge and wisdom. They live in two domains, that of earth and water, and they often use the areas in between, the mud, as a way to conceal themselves when hunting. It says, note that these animal spirits do not simply consume for fun. They eat when necessary, moving slowly and surely, wasting nothing. This provides these creatures with additional symbolic value of frugalness. But also think, life offers us all manner of soul food, and we need to take our time integrating it. How canny. It also says that working with water energy represents our emotions, and particularly those that we hide from the world. Alligator medicine works towards embracing those feelings and working through them honestly. All humans have an inner well of wisdom combined with collective unconscious that guides us through the process, with the alligator spirit standing by ready. So I guess this is a good week to connect to the water, to the earth, maybe to the mud, to think carefully about what kind of soul food we are consuming, to take that time to integrate, and to do it all with a sense of honesty, being honest about how we really feel. Honestly, that makes sense. That checks with what we've been chatting about today. Thank you so much for tuning into this shorter episode of the A Bit From Within podcast. I'm hoping that it's sometime this month that I can do a joint episode with Dave. I've been wanting us to come on and actually chat together about this whole process of being here at the house and lessons we've learned so far this year. Maybe that'll be in the next week or two. But until then, I'm sure I'll be back with a little bit more from within. And I hope that you just take the time to take good care of yourself. Until next time.